I don't love him, Mama. Adunni's voice cracked as she stood in her white wedding gown, tears streaming down her carefully made-up face. Her mother, Folek, adjusted the golden gelly wrapped around her own head and sighed deeply. Love will come, my daughter. Your father and I have chosen well. Chief Banko is a wealthy man who will take care of you. The sounds of Afrobeat music and celebration drifted through the window of the bridal suite at the Lagos hotel. Hundreds of guests had gathered for what everyone called the wedding of the year, the union between 24-year-old Adunni Okafor and 52-year-old Chief Adebeo Banko, a prominent businessman with 3 grown children. Adunni's hands trembled as she touched the heavy coral beads around her neck, a gift from her future husband. But Mama, I've never even had a real conversation with him. How can I marry someone I barely know? Your grandmother married your grandfather the same way, and they had 8 children together, Folek replied firmly, smoothing down Adunni's traditional Yoruba iro and buba underneath the white gown. This is our culture. This is how respectable families do things. The door burst open, and Adunni's father, Chief Emeka Okafor, entered wearing his finest agbada. His face was stern but his eyes showed a flicker of something, a guilt, perhaps. The priest is ready. It's time. Adunni's stomach churned. 6 months ago, her life had been different. She had been working as a marketing coordinator at a tech company in Victoria Island, saving money for her master's degree, dreaming of traveling the world. Then her parents had announced their arrangement with Chief Banko, and her world had crumbled. Please, Papa, she whispered, using the childhood name that had always softened his heart. Give me more time. I'm not ready for this. Chief Okafor's jaw tightened. Our family honor depends on this marriage, Adunni. Chief Banko has already paid the bride price. The whole community is watching. You will not disgrace us. As they walked toward the church doors, Adunni caught sight of her reflection in a mirror. The woman staring back looked like a beautiful stranger, decorated, perfected, and completely trapped. The wedding march began to play. 3 hours later, Adunni sat at the high table, mechanically cutting into her wedding cake while Chief Banko's rough hand rested possessively on her waist. The reception hall at the Eco Hotels buzzed with laughter, clinking glasses, and the rhythmic beats of high-life music. You look beautiful, my wife, Chief Banko whispered in her ear, his breath reeking of expensive cognac. Tonight will be special. Adunni's skin crawled, but she forced a smile for the cameras flashing around them. Her younger brother Kemi caught her eye from across the room and gave her a sympathetic look. He was the only family member who had opposed the arranged marriage in Africa, but at 19, his voice carried no weight against their parents' decision. As the evening wore on, Adunni excused herself to the bathroom. Her best friend and chief bridesmaid, Chioma, followed her. Adunni, you look like you're about to faint, Chioma said, locking the door behind them. Are you okay? I can't do this, Chi, Adunni sobbed, finally letting her composure crack. I can't spend my life with that man. Did you see how he was looking at me? Like I'm property he just purchased. Chioma hugged her tightly. What if you didn't have to? What do you mean? I've been thinking about this all day. My cousin Ton works at the airport. He could get you on the last flight to Abuja tonight. You could disappear for a while, figure things out. Adunni's heart raced. But my family, the shame. Sometimes we have to choose between family honor and our own lives, Chioma said firmly. Your parents will survive the embarrassment. But will you survive a lifetime of unhappiness? A knock on the door interrupted them. Mrs. Banko. It was her new husband's driver. Chief is asking for you. Adunni looked at her reflection one more time. The woman in the mirror was suffocating under the weight of tradition and expectation. She made her choice. Tell him I'll be there in 5 minutes, she called out, then turned to Chioma. Do you really think Ton would help? Chioma pulled out her phone. Let me call him now. The taxi pulled up to Murtala Muhammad Airport just as the first drops of Lagos rain began to fall. Adunni had changed out of her wedding dress into jeans and a simple blouse that Chioma had smuggled in a bag. Her hands shook as she paid the driver with money she had borrowed from her friend. "Flight to Abuja leaves in 40 minutes, Chioma's cousin Ton said, handing her a boarding pass. "I managed to get you on standby." "You were lucky, someone just cancelled." "Thank you," Adunni whispered, clutching the ticket like a lifeline. "I don't know how I'll ever repay you." "Just be safe," Ton replied. "Your phone has been ringing non-stop. You might want to turn it off." Adunni looked at her phone screen. 23 missed calls from her father, 15 from her mother, 8 from Chief Banko. She turned it off and followed Ton through the terminal. At the departure gate, rain pounded against the large windows. Adunni sat in the waiting area, her mind reeling. What had she done? In the span of 6 hours, she had gotten married and then abandoned her husband at their own reception. Her parents would never forgive her. The whole community would talk about the Okafor family's shame for years to come. "Excuse me, is this seat taken?" Adunni looked up to see a tall man about her age, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He was soaked from the rain, his shirt clinging to his frame. "No, please sit," she said, scooting over to make room. "Terrible weather to be traveling," he said, settling down beside her. "I'm David, by the way. David Adeyemi." "Adunni," she replied automatically, then caught herself. "I mean, actually, my name is Adunni." David laughed softly. "It's okay to be nervous about flying. I get anxious too sometimes." If only he knew what she was really nervous about. "Are you traveling for business or pleasure?" "Business, unfortunately. I'm a software engineer, heading to Abuja for a client meeting." "What about you?" "I'm running away from my wedding," the words stumbled out before she could stop them. David's eyes widened in surprise, but instead of judgment, she saw understanding. "That sounds like there's a story there." As they waited for their flight to board, something about this stranger made Adunni want to talk. Maybe it was his kind eyes, or maybe it was the fact that he was the first person in months who had looked at her like she was more than just someone's daughter or wife. "My parents arranged my marriage when I was 23, Adunni found herself saying as the plane climbed through the stormy Lagos sky. "Today was supposed to be the happiest day of my life." David listened without interruption as she told him about Chief Banko, about the pressure from her family, about feeling like a commodity being traded between powerful men. She had never spoken so freely about her situation to anyone, not even Chioma. "That must have taken incredible courage," David said when she finished. "Leaving everything behind like that." "Or incredible stupidity," Adunni replied, looking out at the clouds below. "I don't even know where I'm going to stay in Abuja. I just knew I had to get away." David was quiet for a moment. "Can I tell you something? My sister went through something similar 3 years ago. Different circumstances, but our parents had promised her to a family friend's son. She felt trapped." "What did she do?" "She fought. It wasn't easy, there were arguments, threats, even some family members who stopped speaking to her. But eventually, our parents realized they would rather have an unhappy daughter who was alive than lose her completely." Adunni felt a spark of hope. "And now? Now she's married to a man she chose herself. They have a beautiful baby girl. Our parents adore both of them." David smiled. "Sometimes the people who love us make mistakes because they think they know what's best for us. But only we know what's in our hearts." The flight attendant came by with drinks. Adunni realized she hadn't eaten anything since breakfast, too nervous about the wedding to stomach food at the reception. "You should eat something," David said, noticing her hands trembling slightly. "Low blood sugar won't help with the stress you're under." He flagged down the attendant and ordered her a sandwich and orange juice. The simple act of kindness brought tears to her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. I can't remember the last time someone just took care of me without wanting something in return. Everyone deserves kindness, David said simply. Especially someone brave enough to choose their own path. As the plane began its descent into Abuja, Adunni felt something she hadn't experienced in months, genuine connection with another human being. This stranger had listened to her story without judgment, offered comfort without expecting anything back, and made her feel seen in a way that Chief Banko never had. David, she said as the seatbelt sign came on, would you mind if I gave you my number? I don't know anyone in Abuja, and I could use a friend right now. David's smile was warm and honest. I'd like that very much. David insisted on helping Adunni find a hotel near the Abuja city center. As they sat in the taxi, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Mrs. Banko, you have brought disgrace upon both our families. You will return to Lagos immediately, or face serious consequences. Chief Banko. Her hands shook as she showed David the message. He's trying to intimidate you, David said firmly. You're not his property, no matter what traditional marriage rites were performed. You have the right to choose your own life. But my family. Adunni's voice trailed off as she imagined her father's rage, her mother's tears, the whispers that would follow her relatives wherever they went. Your family will have to accept that you're an adult capable of making your own decisions, David said gently. It might take time, but real love means wanting someone's happiness, even if it's not what you had planned for them. The hotel David chose was modest but clean, nothing like the luxury she had grown up with as Chief Okofor's daughter. As she checked in using her maiden name, Adunni felt a strange sense of freedom. For the first time in her adult life, no one knew who she was or what was expected of her. I have meetings all day tomorrow, David said as they stood in the lobby. But would you like to have dinner tomorrow evening? I know a nice local restaurant that serves the best suyo in Abuja. Adunni nodded, surprised by how much she was looking forward to seeing him again. I'd like that. After David left, Adunni sat on her hotel bed and finally turned her phone back on. 47 missed calls, 32 text messages, and 15 voicemails. Most were from her family, but several were from Chief Banko's associates and even some family friends expressing their shock and disappointment. One message from her brother Kemi made her heart ache. Sister, wherever you are, please be safe. I understand why you did what you did. Give me a call when you can. Another from Chioma, girl, the whole of Lagos is talking. Your parents are furious, but I'm proud of you. Stay strong. The most disturbing message came from her father, Adunni, you have shamed our family name and broken a sacred covenant. Chief Banko is demanding we return his bride price and compensate him for the public embarrassment. If you don't return within 48 hours, I will be forced to take drastic measures to restore our honor. Adunni's stomach dropped. What kind of drastic measures? She knew her father was a proud man, but surely he wouldn't actually hurt her, would he? She looked around the small hotel room, at the unfamiliar furniture, the city lights twinkling outside the window, the silence that was both terrifying and liberating. For the first time in her life, she was truly alone. And for the first time in months, she wasn't sure if that was a good thing or a very dangerous thing. The next morning, Adunni woke to find her hotel room phone ringing insistently. She answered cautiously. Miss, there are some men here asking about you, the desk clerk said nervously. They say they're your family members and they need to speak with you urgently. Adunni's blood ran cold. She moved to the window and carefully peered down at the lobby. Two large men in suits stood talking to the reception staff, showing them what looked like a photograph. Tell them you haven't seen me, she whispered into the phone. Please. Miss, they seem very determined. Adunni hung up and quickly began packing her few belongings. Her hands shook as she called David. David, I'm sorry to bother you, but I think my family has found me. There are men at my hotel looking for me. Where are you now? David's voice was immediately alert and concerned. Still in my room, but they're downstairs. I don't know what to do. Listen carefully, David said. There's a service elevator at the back of your hotel. Take it to the basement parking garage. I'll meet you there in 10 minutes. But your meetings? Forget the meetings. You're more important. Adunni felt a warmth spread through her chest despite her fear. When was the last time someone had put her needs first? She managed to slip out through the service entrance just as David pulled up in a silver Honda. Get in, he said, and she dove into the passenger seat. Thank you, she breathed as they drove away from the hotel. I don't know what I would have done. You would have figured it out, David said confidently. You're stronger than you think. They drove to a quiet cafe in Wustu, far from the city center. Over coffee and akra, Adunni told David about her father's threatening message. This is escalating beyond family pressure, David said seriously. If they're sending people to track you down, you might need to involve the authorities. The police. Adunni shook her head. David, you don't understand. My father has connections everywhere. Chief Banko has even more. They'll just send me back home. David reached across the table and took her hand. The touch was electric, and Adunni realized with startling clarity that her feelings for this near stranger were growing into something deeper than gratitude. Then we need to be smarter than them, he said. I have a friend who works with an NGO that helps women in situations like yours. Maybe she can provide some legal advice or safe housing options. Adunni squeezed his hand. Why are you doing this for me? You barely know me. David's eyes were serious and kind. Because what's happening to you is wrong. Because everyone deserves the right to choose their own life. And because... He paused, seeming to consider his words carefully. Because I care about you, Adunni. More than I probably should after knowing you for only 2 days. The confession hung in the air between them. Adunni felt her heart racing, not with fear this time, but with possibility. I care about you too, she whispered. David's friend Amoka worked for an organization called Women's Rights Initiative. She met them at her office that evening, her expression grave as she listened to Adunni's story. This isn't uncommon, Amoka said sadly. We see cases of forced marriage regularly, and the emotional manipulation from families can be just as damaging as physical threats. Can you help her? David asked. We have a safe house network, and we can provide legal counsel if needed. But Adunni, you need to understand, once you go down this path, there may be no going back to your family for a long time. Adunni nodded. I understand. I'd rather be alone and free than married and miserable. Amoka gave her some paperwork to review overnight and arranged for her to stay at a safe house in Gaki. As David drove her there, they talked about their growing feelings for each other. I know the timing is terrible, David said as they sat in his car outside the safe house. You're dealing with so much, and the last thing you need is more complications. You're not a complication, Adunni said softly. You're the first good thing that's happened to me in months. David leaned over and gently kissed her forehead. We'll take this slow. You need time to figure out your life without pressure from anyone, including me. The safe house was a modest apartment shared with 2 other women who had fled domestic violence situations. Adunni felt grateful for their quiet companionship and the sense that she wasn't alone in her struggle. The next morning, David called with disturbing news. Adunni, I think we have a problem. Someone came to my office yesterday asking questions about me, specifically about whether I had been seen with a young woman from Lagos. Adunni's stomach dropped. How could they know about you? I don't know, but they describe you perfectly. They even knew about our flight together. Fear crept up Adunni's spine. David, maybe you should stay away from me for a while. I don't want you getting hurt because of my problems. Absolutely not. We're in this together now. But that afternoon, Amoka called with shocking news that changed everything. Adunni, I need you to come to the office immediately. And don't tell anyone where you're going. When Adunni arrived, Amoka's face was stern. I received a call today from someone claiming to be your father. He offered my organization a substantial donation if we would reveal your location. You didn't. Of course not. But that's not the concerning part. Amoka paused, her expression pained. The call came through our main line, but somehow they knew specific details about our conversation yesterday, details that only someone who was present could have known. Adunni's world tilted. What are you saying? I'm saying someone who has access to you is feeding information to your family. Someone you trust. The room spun as the implications hit her. David was the only person who knew all those details. David, who had been so helpful, so caring, so perfect. David, who might have been playing her all along. That evening, Adunni waited for David at their usual cafe, her heart pounding with a mixture of hurt and rage. When he walked in with his familiar warm smile, she felt physically sick. You look upset, he said, sitting down across from her. Is everything okay at the safe house? Cut the act, David, Adunni said quietly. I know what you've been doing. The smile faded from his face, replaced by something that looked almost like relief. Adunni, I can explain. Explain how you've been reporting my every move to my family. Explain how you conveniently appeared on that flight to Abuja. Explain how you gained my trust just so you could betray it. David's shoulders sagged. It's not what you think. Then tell me what it is. Adunni's voice rose, causing other patrons to glance over. She lowered it to a harsh whisper. Tell me why a stranger would go to such elaborate lengths to help a runaway bride unless he was being paid to do it. David was quiet for a long moment, staring at his hands. When he looked up, his eyes were filled with genuine anguish. Your father contacted me 3 weeks before your wedding, he said finally. He had done research on every flight out of Lagos that night, identified passengers who might sit near you, and approached several of us with the same offer. Which was 50,000 naira to keep you safe, gain your trust, and report on your whereabouts until he could arrange for your safe return to Lagos. The betrayal cut deeper than Adunni had expected. So everything, the kindness, the connection I felt, the way you made me feel understood, it was all fake. No. David said emphatically, leaning forward. That's what I'm trying to tell you. It started as an assignment, yes. But Adunni, everything I felt for you, everything between us, that was real. How am I supposed to believe anything you say? David pulled out his phone and showed her a series of text messages from her father. The most recent one, from 2 hours ago, read, "Where is she now? You're being paid to deliver results." I haven't responded to any of his messages since yesterday, David said. After I kissed you, after I realized what I was feeling. I couldn't do it anymore. Adunni felt tears burning behind her eyes. But the damage is already done. They know I'm in Abuja because of you. They found my hotel because of you. I know. And I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make up for that mistake if you let me. Let you. Adunni stood up abruptly. David, you sold my trust for 50,000 naira. You made me believe someone actually cared about me when really you were just doing a job. I do care about you. You have a funny way of showing it. As she walked toward the door, David called after her. Adunni, wait. Your father is flying to Abuja tomorrow with Chief Bankole and some other men. They are planning to force you to return to Lagos. I was supposed to have you in a specific location by tonight so they could collect you. She turned back, her face pale. And where is that location supposed to be? David's face was grim. The safe house. Adunni raced back to the safe house in Gaki, her mind spinning with David's revelation. If her father knew about the safe house location, then she and the other women staying there were all in danger. She burst through the door to find Amoka already there, helping the other residents pack quickly. "How did you know?" Adunni gasped. "David called me 20 minutes ago," Amoka said grimly. "He told me everything, about being hired by your father, about tomorrow's plan, about the safe house being compromised. Can we trust him? Right now, he's the only reason you're not walking into a trap. Whether we can trust his motives, that's up to you to decide." They had less than an hour to relocate everyone to a backup location. As they drove through Abuja's evening traffic, Adunni's phone rang. Her father's name appeared on the screen. Against Amoka's advice, she answered. "Papa." "Adunni." Her father's voice was cold and controlled. "You have caused enough shame to our family. It ends tomorrow." "Papa, I'm not coming back to Lagos. I'm not going back to Chief Banko." "You don't have a choice, my daughter. You are married in the eyes of God and our community. Running away doesn't change that. I never consented to that marriage. You forced me into it. I gave you the best life possible." Her father's composure cracked. "Education, comfort, respect in the community. And you throw it away for what? To live like a common runaway? To disgrace everything our family has built." Adunni felt the familiar pull of guilt and obligation, but this time she also felt something stronger, her own voice. "Papa, I throw it away for the chance to choose my own happiness. For the right to love someone who sees me as more than a business transaction." "Love?" Her father laughed bitterly. "That boy you've been spending time with, David, do you think his feelings are real? Do you know he's been working for me this whole time?" "I know about David," Adunni said quietly. "But I also know something you don't understand, Papa. Real love isn't about owning someone or controlling them. It's about wanting their happiness even when it costs you something. Foolish child. Tomorrow you'll see how much your happiness matters when you're forced to face the consequences of your actions." The line went dead. Amoka squeezed Adunni's shoulder. "You did well. You stayed strong." But Adunni wasn't feeling strong. She was feeling terrified and alone, caught between a family who saw her as property and a man who had betrayed her trust even while claiming to love her. Her phone buzzed with a text from David. "I know I've lost your trust, but please let me help you one more time. I have a plan to get you somewhere safe, somewhere they'll never find you. You don't have to forgive me, but please let me try to make this right." The next morning, David met Adunni at the new safe house. His eyes were red-rimmed, as if he hadn't slept, and he carried a backpack and an envelope. "I've been up all night making arrangements," he said without preamble. "I have a cousin in Ghana who runs a tech company. She's agreed to give you a job and help you get settled in Accra. It's far enough away that your father's influence won't reach you there." Adunni stared at him. "Why would you do that?" "Because I love you," David said simply. "And because I need to prove that love isn't about control or deception. It's about wanting what's best for you, even if that means you never want to see me again." The envelope contained a plane ticket to Accra, leaving that afternoon, along with 500,000 naira in cash. "This is the money your father paid me, plus my own savings," David explained. "It should be enough to get you started in Ghana." "David, I can't take this." "Yes, you can. And you should." David's voice was firm. "Adunni, I made a terrible mistake when I agreed to your father's plan. I was thinking about the money, not about the real person whose life I was manipulating. But getting to know you changed everything. You're brave, intelligent, compassionate, and strong in ways I never imagined. You deserve a life where those qualities are celebrated, not suppressed." Tears ran down Adunni's cheeks. "What about your feelings? What about us? If there's ever going to be an US, it has to be because you choose it freely, without pressure from your family or guilt about my help. Maybe someday, when you've built the life you want in Ghana, you decide you want me to be part of it. But that has to be entirely your decision. 3 hours later, Adunni sat on a plane to Accra, watching Nigeria disappear below the clouds. Her phone had been buzzing constantly with calls from her family, but she had turned it off after sending one final message to her parents: "I love you both, but I love myself too much to live a lie. When you're ready to accept the woman I've chosen to become, I'll be ready to talk." 6 months later, Adunni stood on a beach in Accra, watching the sunset paint the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks. She had started working for David's cousin's company, made new friends, and for the first time in her life, was living according to her own values and desires. Her phone rang. David's name appeared on the screen. She hadn't spoken to him since leaving Nigeria, though he had sent occasional updates about her family's attempts to find her, which had eventually stopped. "Hello, David." "Adunni. How are you?" "I'm good. Really good." She meant it. "How are you?" "I'm hopeful," he said. "I've been working with Amoka's organization, helping other women in situations like yours. It feels like the right way to use my tech skills." They talked for an hour, about her new life, his work, the healing they had both been doing. When the conversation naturally began to wind down, David asked the question she had been expecting. "Adunni, do you think, would you be open to me visiting Ghana sometime? Just as a friend, no expectations or pressure." Adunni smiled, watching the waves roll onto the shore. "I'd like that, David. I'd like that very much." As she hung up the phone, Adunni reflected on the journey that had brought her to this moment. She had lost a forced marriage but gained her freedom. She had experienced betrayal but learned the difference between manipulation and genuine love. She had disappointed her family but honored herself. Most importantly, she had learned that sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is choose your own happiness, even when it costs you everything else. The end. Thank you for joining us for this emotional journey. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to K-Smart's Mythic Tales, and share it with someone who needs to hear that it's never too late to choose your own path. What did you think of Adunni's brave decision? Comment below and let us know if you'd like to see more stories about courage, love, and finding yourself. Until next time, remember, your happiness matters, and you deserve to choose your own destiny.